Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, good day to you all. Now, I would like to emphasize more on technology crime and more on forensic part of the investigation. And what are the latest trends in cybercrime? Earlier, it used to be that there used to be a mail compromise or some social media fake accounts, and some OTP fraud, wallet fraud. But now the landscape is there is a paradigm change in the cybercrime landscape. What is happening right now in the last 1 month? If you have noticed, you have gone through the newspaper. There was data breach related with Dr. Reddy and Dr. Path Lab, and recently there were ransomware attack over Haldiram food chain, and there are lots of ransomware attack are happening on corporate sector. So these are the challenges. And what is happening? I got 7. I mean, within a month, I got 7 complaints from chartered accountants from Lucknow. They came to my office and they told that, sir, our entire system is locked. And there is a message that they are demanding money in Bitcoin, and they are saying that unless and until you are paying the money through Bitcoin, we cannot give you the decryption code. And so I told them that is a ransomware attack. What is the problem before the law enforcement agency? That we are not equipped to handle this kind of cases. So I invited all my friends from all the domain. I mean, few of them are top hackers and infosec giants, and I sent them those files which were appearing on the screen. So they could not decipher the key. And till now, I haven't seen any case in which there was a ransomware attack and somebody has decoded and somebody had decrypted the file. And in few of the cases, they have paid the money through Bitcoin, and still they haven't got their file decoded. So the problem before law enforcement agencies, if we are not solving the case, then people think that we are not interested, we are not taking interest in those cases. The problem is that we don't have that capability. We don't have that decryption tools or that kind of technology skill, so that we could work upon those cases, and not in the police department. If we are trying to take help from other departments, other corporate sector, even they are equally helpless. So there are so many cases we have seen recently, not only in case of ransomware attack, that they are demanding money in Bitcoin. When we try to investigate the Bitcoin cases, the problem is that till now we haven't seen any case in which somebody has backtracked the criminal who is at the other end, and those who have demanded the Bitcoin, because the architecture is something like that. So perfect anonymity is there. The blockchain technology is such that we cannot resolve at least who who are the sender and who are the receiver. So currently, in almost all cases, high profile cases, we find ourselves handicapped when the demand is in Bitcoin. If somebody is sending a ransom through Bitcoin, and if there is ransomware attack. So far as trends in corporate sector is concerned, I am dealing with 3-4 cases here in UP. Those are related with power sectors and mining departments and PDS system, public distribution system. What is happening in those cases? Not the ransomware attack, the insider, the third party who has been outsourced the entire infrastructure to man. The guys who are posted, they are the lowly paid, and they are being compromised, and they are playing with the entire system. So what is happening in the PDS system? Those who are not eligible, from the back end, from the back end, they are giving the access, and they are being distributed the food grain to those black marketeers. who are willing to buy and pay the price. The problem is that there is no technical awareness among government employees. There is no internal control, and everything is left to those who are outsourced, third party, those who have no interest in anything. They are just maintaining the IT infra. They are being compromised, and they are part of the whole corrupt nexus, because senior officers, they are not technically savvy. They don't want to get into the technical details of the infrastructure, like power billing system in Uttar Pradesh. Everything is online. You can pay your online electricity bill online. So if somebody is compromised at the data center, either at the data center or at the Subidha center, Grahak Seva Kendra. So they can manipulate the bill. What used to be, when I arrested 2-3 guys, they were connected with the data center. They used to manipulate the billing from the data center itself, and then some of them got spoofed, ID of some senior officer, and then they used to adjust the bill. And when they were arrested, then the total amount we calculated, it was a rough calculation, it was more than 500 crore rupees. And same thing is happening in the mining department. If we have given a lease of plot to mine, sand mines, then what is procedure in UP, that there is a website, you are given the lease, and then you have to pay the royalty, and only then you can mine. So the fraudster did, they created a similar fake website. They created QR code embedded into that certificate. When police officer or mining officer were going to check the system, the truckers are those who are plying the trucks and vehicles which were carrying mining. They used to scan barcode scan. They used to scan through barcoding. The government officer, be it from the mining department or from the police department, they used to think that this is the application I have to check, and this is the website, because there was a spelling difference of one. It's a UP mining departments, and they added S and they created a different website. I would like to tell you one thing, that the problem is that of awareness. The problem is that of technology knowledge. The problem is that of training, because everything has gone digital. Entire payment, entire our business process has gone digital. So at least there has to be a training or a workshop to train them about the process, about the threats, about the technology. But in reality, what is happening? We are giving training for 2-3 days to the police officers, be it the police department or for that matter any department. I always say that 2-3 days training is not sufficient to give you an idea about what is the process involved and how a criminal can bypass the entire system. I am going to give you a very interesting example. A 17-year-old boy came to my office and he told me that, "Sir, what do you want? I can give you in free. I can give you free hotel tickets. I can hotel accommodation. I can give you free flight tickets. I can give you free insurance. I can give you free recharge in your phone." And he was just 17 years old. So he talked about 3 companies. I invited CEO and CTO of those 3 companies. They came to my office, and before them, I called the boy, and he hacked into the all those 3 company database. One company was general insurance company. He created a health insurance certificate for him for a premium of 10,000 rupees. One company was related with telecom. He compromised his website, bypassed the payment, bypassed the payment mechanism, and then he got he got a mobile phone booked in his name, free of cost. And then third company was again a telecom company. He recharged the CTO phone number uh, by 1,000 without giving any money. And in all these three cases, he had bypassed the payment gateway procedure. When I asked the boy how you were doing it, he told me that, sir, we are using Fiddler and data tamper application. What we do, we get it installed on our data system, and at the moment when we are going to pay for the money, there is a traffic, and that traffic is going into plain text to the server of the payment gateway, and when it's coming back for confirming that yes, the payment has been done, we capture the data, and then we do make a small change from Y to no, from N to Y, and then again this traffic goes to the website. Once the website gets the message that payment has been done, then our entire purchasing is successful. So the here technical part is that a 17-year-old guy can compromise a payment gateway mechanism because of any reason. So the crime pattern and the crime modus operandi has gone so technical that it's beyond imagination, beyond technical knowledge of the police department, or for that matter any department which is the victim. So, recently, a few of my friends, they are after dark web. They say, and recently we have seen in the newspapers that data related with insurance industry, banking industry, health care industry, it's all on the dark web. Just you have to pay the premium. And it's not a rocket science. You can go through Tor browser, you can access dark web, and you can find data related with any corporate sector. Now the problem is that unless and until, suppose for example, the data of an insurance company has been hacked and it has been put on the dark web, the first problem is where from they got the data. Either the insiders share the data, either the criminals hacked into their database. So only by the possibility of these two things, they can get the data. But the fact is that the data is there on the dark web for the sale. It means the data breach has happened without any exception. And I see that data related with each and every corporate is there on the dark web. For your information, when I was conducting raids in Delhi, Noida, and Gurgaon, in related with some high-profile call center operating there, I found that the data related with all insurance company was there on their table. They do have the complete details of your policy, your name, your address, your premium amount, your bonus records, everything is there on their table. And then through social engineering techniques, and then once we have got such an information, your age, your address, your mobile number, if everything is on my table, then through social engineering, if I am smart enough, then I can convince you that this call is from the insurance company. But the fact is, they have created a call center, and they are calling you, befooling thousands of people in India, And in the last 5-6 years, I arrested 600 call center operators. Those who were owner of the call center, those who were employees in the call center, 600 plus, they were sent behind the bars. And 4,000 crore rupees, at least 4,000, more than 4,000 crore rupees of the money, we got it, blocked in banking accounts, are we recovered. One case I would like to tell you, one more very interesting case. There is a pop-up call industry right now. It's happening in every part of India. It's a malware. It's a malware kind of fraud. They send millions of mails to mails, and then you all of a sudden you get your mobile phone or your computers some malware infected, and there is a pop-up that your computer is infected. If you want to get it resolved, if you want to delete this virus, then kindly call this number. When you are calling that number, that is a VoIP call that lands into India itself. And then somebody he tells that I am from the Microsoft company or some tech support company. You will have to pay $70 or $80, and then we can get into your system, and then the virus will be deleted. So it's being happening at a very large scale. When I raided the office in night around 2 a.m., the whole, the floor was full of those guys, and their age was between 17 to 25 years old. They used to speak in some English accent, and they were defrauding people from America and Canada. And this is kind of, you just go on the Google and you type pop-up call sale. So you will find everywhere. You just type on the Google pop-up call buy in Hyderabad or in Noida, then you will find lots of seller. 5 rupees for one pop-up call. Suppose you are investing 5,000, 10,000 rupees, you purchase some pop-up call, then ultimately you get those number of call landed on your desktop, and you can earn lots of money by paying 5 rupees. And if you are getting 70 or 80,000, $80, so it's a huge return. So they have created a huge corporate style call center, and then they are operating. So I want to tell you that the crime scenario, the cybercrime modus operandi, tools, techniques, it has gone highly complicated beyond understanding of the law enforcement agency, because they are not so technical. Then the next part is forensic. For what is happening, then once the crime has been committed, then the next part is forensic. We are not expert in handling digital forensic cases, because we are the experts are different. What is happening in police department, for any department I am telling, they are giving just 2-3 days training, and they are giving the certificate that now you are cyber forensic expert. The fact is that he does not understand what is forensic. If you have to imagine a hard disk, imagine a mobile phone. So how to get the image, how to do the analysis, how to preserve the data, how to put it in the code, how to explain if some defense lawyer is putting a hard question. It's beyond, beyond the knowledge, expertise, and the exposure of the law enforcement departments. And the same is happening with the corporate sector. When the corporate sector people come and we ask them the question related with legal, like somebody asked a question, how can we be associated with police department in the investigation? The legal position is that any outsider cannot be the part of the investigation legally, because investigation is completely done by the law enforcement officer. Of course, as an expert, we can outsource this task to you. So recently government has done that we have made a provision for 30, 40 cyber expert, that we can outsource, and we are posting them in each and every cyber police station, and they are doing the cyber forensic part from our behalf. And in a court, they are going to testify as an expert. So the question which was that how can you be the part of investigation? Of course you can be, we can outsource, but the problem is that you have to be an expert in your domain, and only then we can outsource that part only, forensic part, not the analysis, but your job is to do the forensic image analysis. The conclusion and the finding has to be done by the police officer. So these are the technology landscape nowadays. My suggestion is that there has to be a different technology vertical in law enforcement agency, or even in corporate sector. If you are in the corporate sector, if you are an investigator, then you are supposed to have the knowledge of cyber law, intellectual property law. Then you have to have command about cyber forensic tools, techniques, technology. Then you have to be aware with how the police investigate the case. I mean, investigation part. Then you need to be technically smart. You have to be aware with what are the basic fundamentals of application, or because everything is related with some code and programming. So my suggestion is that if you are really interested in becoming a investigator, be it in the corporate sector or in the government sector, then you have to invest your time in learning about the technology, about the forensic tools. If a very technical problem came before me in a case when I was investigating. My senior officers, there was a confusion that whether whether this is a crime or not. Like today morning, I got a call from my inspector. Sir, somebody through some application, they are getting the railway ticket immediately, and we have arrested them because they are using the special tools through which they are getting the tickets, railway tickets immediately. So they have arrested. So when I investigated the case, I mean, 1 year back, I had got into the details of the case. Then I found that they were manipulating the IP addresses, because with one IP you can book only 1 or 2 tickets. So they had created such an application in which IP manipulation tool was there. Then MAC address, even the MAC address manipulation tool was there. I mean, you can spoof. And then they used to fit the debit card and credit card details. On this case, even CBI was working, So I asked the inspector, you had arrested that guy. So what did you do with that? Once you arrested, sir, there was no criminal offense made out, and so we had to leave him because there was not a criminal case made against him. When we investigated it further, then we found that they were manipulating the IMEI. They were manipulating the MAC address. So it's an offense in IT Act 66C and D. Senior officers were not acting. They were not taking the lead because there was a confusion whether this was a crime or not. Then I decided, no, this is a crime, because nobody can change the IMEI, spoof the IMEI or MAC address or even IP address. Once you are doing it, then this is the case of 65 IT Act. because they are playing with the source code of the mobile device. And once I am changing my IP addresses, and so this is the case of impersonation and identity theft, then I had to book those cases in those. So it always happens that before police officer, there is always a question in technology crime, whether it's a crime or not, whether this is a crime or not. And that's why most of the police officers do not take the lead, because technically the issue is so complicated that they think it better to leave the matter over there. That's why I always say that there has to be a different technology cadre to look into such kind of technology crime. And now in 99% of the case, technology is involved. This is the age of spoofing. You can spoof the number, you can spoof the ID, you can spoof the MAC ID. Everything is being spoofed. Yeah. Any question? Hello.
Yeah. One interesting question came, Triveni.
Yeah.
Sharath Kumar here. One Nagarajan asks you, nowadays all payment gateways require OTP even for payment of rupees 200. If so, how could fiddlers manage? This is the question.
Yeah, now it's not happening. I'm talking about 1-2 years before, then there was not the provision. And but now what is happening, I don't have any idea. But one thing I would like to tell, that even this is happening even today. If I have got a website, and if I want to get a payment gateway integrated into my website, and then connecting a bogus account with that, then what I have to do, I have to send a mail ID to a payment gateway operator. I have to scan my fake documents, and they are immediately within an hour, they are integrating that payment gateway into my website. If some fraudster want that he has to get into fraudulent activity within 2-3 hours, it's really a matter of 2-3 hours. I have to purchase a domain, I have to create a website, it's a matter of 30 minutes only. Then I have to contact some payment gateway operator, then payment gateway facilities integrated into my website, then some bogus account is being attached, and then you start getting money from all that. But I called again. It's a good question. I called that guy who used to do it. Then I told him just to check. Even today, the payment, you were able to bypass the payment gateway. He said, I will have to do R&D because I have left. Because 2-3 years back, I arrested few of them for that. So it was a big news in hackers community, and then they had left it. Nowadays, if two-factor authentication is there, I'm not sure,
There are two questions connected. One, Mr. Sanpreet Sachar asked how to fight ransomware attacks. And Mr. Rohit Agarwal asked what is the first step an individual or company should take if he becomes victim of ransomware in terms of securing data, etc., etc. Both are linked.
Yeah, here in Lucknow, I got few cases related with ransomware. And even from corporate sector, they contact me in case of ransomware attack. The problem is that there are two issues. You have to decode the file. What kind of attack is that? So if we are sending this particular file or a particular ransomware attack message to some experts, they are not able to decode it. I mean, decoding means they are not able to decrypt it. So unless and until you are paying them the ransom in a Bitcoin, you won't be able to decode your decipher your entire database or your entire file, which happened in case of chartered accountants here in Lucknow. Now the next problem is, if we're paying them money in Bitcoin, there is no guarantee, there is no warranty that they will get the decryption key. Despite paying 2-3 Bitcoin, you can imagine the price of 2-3 Bitcoin. or 4 Bitcoin. They demand something like this. So, and you won't be able to decryption kill them. What is the use of paying that money? So as of now, there is no way out from the ransomware attack. I always invite corporate sector and those who are in cybersecurity and infosec domain that please try to get some tools or try to resolve this problem, because it's really a challenge, not before the police, law enforcement agency, but before the corporate sector as entire corporate sector. Yeah.
Ramchandra, you can take the other questions. You can read out to Professor Trivedi.
Yeah. Sir, in this era of GDPR applicable for data across corporates, so the privacy is an issue. So as an investigator, what challenges we will be facing and how to meet those challenges is a question by Mr. Deepak Kumar.
Okay, privacy, it's a really very serious issue. Privacy breach is always, every second day, it's always on the front page of Economic Times and other media, you know. GDPR is not our regulatory mechanism unless and until we are related with some foreign dealing, all that. And what is right now, the legal position is that our privacy bill is already there to come into existence as an act. So we cannot enforce that privacy. So what are the legal provision nowadays? 43A in IT Act. If your privacy, I'm not talking about the privacy of personally identifiable information. I'm talking about the sensitive personal data. If that is leaked, then the legal option before you is that you can go before the adjudicating authority in the state, and then you can file for compensation or damage, and that can go up to 5 crore rupees. That is the legal option. So far as prevention and technical countermeasures and all that is concerned, if you are master at ISO 27001, and if you have got really mastery of 137, 150 countermeasures, then only you can secure yourself up to some extent, up to 90%, because he always believes that in this case, 100% security is a myth. You cannot secure yourself 100%. So for that, you can be, you should be aware of the basic preventive countermeasures, which you can install on your phone, on your desktop, on your iPad, all that, and only then you can save your data, your personal ID, your financial records, and all that. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. The next question is from Mr. Raghu Boddu, that there are major frauds happening on Facebook and OLX frauds, and majority of them are from Bihar, Jharkhand, or other small states. Why police department is not having restrictions on these websites or the apps?
Very interesting question. There is no website, number one. Number two, what they are doing, if in case of Facebook, I'm talking about, most of the victim are those who have their mobile number as password. Because if you have your ID on Facebook, then if you are putting your mobile ID as user ID and the password as your mobile ID, then you can be easily hacked. So there were a few cases I got in which the victim used to have their mobile number as password and they were compromised. It's very easy. Anyone can do it. Now, they have gone to a different modus operandi. They are reading your complete profile on Facebook. They're taking, because if you have you haven't put in privacy countermeasures, then anyone can copy your photographs from once I am into your friend list. And even if you have the list privacy countermeasures installed on Facebook, then anyone can get your photo. So they are creating a different ID in your name, and they are putting your photographs, and then they are sending a friend request to all your friends. Once they become the friend, then on Facebook Messenger, they send the message that I am into the hospital, I am at the airport, my wife or my daughter is somewhere in problem. So kindly just you send 10,000 rupees through WhatsApp or through Google Pay or Paytm. So if they are sending this request to 100, then definitely 10 or 15 people, they think that why to ask for 10,000 rupees to such a senior officer? Why not deposit it? So they are defrauding the people. So far as area is concerned, this kind of this Facebook and OLX fraud is happening in the area Mathura, Gurgaon, and Rajasthan. It's a triangular, and they are called Mewati. There are 10-15 villages in which 1,000 plus boys and girls are doing this. They are onto the OLX, they see the ad, then they make a call to you. I am interested in what you have displayed on the OLX. And then by sending the QR code, there has to be an awareness among the public that once you are clicking a QR code, the QR code clicking or accepting is for giving the money, not for accepting the money. But what they say that you just scan this and you will get your money. Before that, they send you 5 rupees, 10 rupees into your account, just to make you believe that I'm a real buyer,
As a test,
they send you the QR code and then they defraud you. Okay. Hello, yeah.
Yeah, sir, the next question is, as payment card, debit cards and credit card frauds are increasing, is there a chip-based ATM frauds happening, and how can it be stopped? A question by Mohammed Ibrahim American.
Yeah, very good question. The problem is that the banking industry has issued debit card and a credit card, but unfortunately, along with chip, they have given you the magnetic stripe also. But RBI guidelines is RBI strict guidelines is that from 2020 January, 2019 January, no bank will issue such a card on which magnetic stripe will be there. Only chip-based card, EMB card will be issued. Okay. Problem before bank is that for all their POS machines, is still not updated because it's a huge capital investment into that to enable chip-based. That's why they are giving you the both option. I always say that what is the use of issuing such a card in which both are there? Because we had to issue chip-based card only to stop the fraud. I mean, cloning of the debit card or the credit card. You issued even card, and you install chip also, but along with that, you have given the magnetic stripe also. So the hackers and the criminals are cloning your card very easily. So there is no use. So you always say that only you have to create such a ecosystem, such a infra where only chip-enabled card will be applicable, or not the magnetic data stripe. Yeah, that is the issue. Legally, they are wrong. They're wrong, banking industry. Now, yes, once RBI has given this direction to them.
So the next question is from Jay Prasad Ramakrishna. Is setting IP to be dynamic a crime? Poking into the like a Q at IRCTC is for sure.
No, it's not a crime. When IP was issued, it was IP version 4, and there were 4 billion IP in IP version 4. So once this entire 4 billion IP was exhausted, then there was a technical mechanism to bind one IP with port numbers. So as you are aware, there are 65,000 port numbers. If we're binding a single IP with all these ports, then at the same time, with a single IP, I can communicate with 65,000. I mean, this is the technical possibility. We can, at the same time, we can talk. We can communicate with 65,000 devices. So legally, it's not wrong. But yeah, this creating lots of problem before the law enforcement agency, Because now, once we have got the dump, we have to find one criminal out of those 10,000 or maximum 65,000. So it becomes challenging for the police and law enforcement. That's why in today's scenario, like Geo and other operators also, they are giving you IP version 6. So one IP, one communication. So they are not latching or binding those port addresses with IP. It's not legally wrong.
Okay. Sir, the next question is from Viswanathan Upuganti. When a railway ticket system got hacked and got a ticket without payment, it amounts to some kind of theft. Why can't we treat it as a crime?
So I have talked to senior railway officers. There was no case in which they were not paying the money. They were not able to access the bypass their payment gateway mechanism. What they were doing, once you are going to book online ticket, then there are certain mechanism through which you can get your ticket, like you have to feed your name, debit card, expiry, then CAPTCHA reader. And then there is a limitation. From one system, you can book only 2 tickets in a week. So the criminal, what they did, they install a CAPTCHA reader, auto CAPTCHA reader into their application. If there is a restriction that within a week you cannot book more than 2 PNR from the same IP, so they were asked a spoofing tool into their application. MAC spoofing tool were there. So they used to feed this data, and the moment the online booking is starts, since they operate through computer and they have feed all the data, even the bot is doing CAPTCHA reading and all this. So they are faster and they are getting the tickets. The only illegal part is that I am not the legal traveler. I am not booking it. I am a criminal. I am an operator without paying license fee to the railway department. I am booking n number of tickets by manipulating the system. So for manipulating the system, they are illegal. They are not they are paying the money. The money is going to the exchequer of the railway departments. So for manipulating the system only, they are being sent to jail. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Sir, the next question is how, as a cyber crime detection, the IP address from a different country or an unknown location can be identified. Sometimes we get a call in mobile or a mail from HDFC Bank from fake websites. It's a question from Srinath Maninarayanan.
Okay. As far as IP is concerned, if you have got, once you have got the IP, just there are IP lookup, then you can find which country this IP belongs to and which operator, because IP is related with some telecom operator. Now, once you know that this IP and this IP belongs to this telecom operator, then you can write a letter to the telecom operator. This is the IP address and this is the time session, you know.
Yeah.
So and if the IP is related with USA or some overseas like Russia, then you have to add the time zone. So along with adding the time zone, I mean time interval, then IP and then time, you can write the letter. They respond, and we have cracked several cases based on their decoding. Of course, if we're talking about the proxy bouncing, if we're talking about the TOR based on and an imager, it's a little difficult. It's very difficult to crack. But IP is decoded country-wise, even geography-wise.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next question is from Ajay Kumar. He says, cyber contraventions under section 43 to 45 of the Act, why only compensation is provided and not any punishment? Do you think that if punishment is provided for, it will have effecting of preventing such contraventions?
Yeah, very good question. I always say that there is a lot of misconception among law enforcement agency and even legal community as well. That contravention, 43A. 43, there are sub section A, B, C, D. So once, if my intent is involved, if my intent is criminal, and then I am downloading or accessing your mobile phone without your permission, then it's a criminal offense. Then there is a punishment for 3 years. It's a criminally punishable offense. If my intent is not wrong, and if I have accessed your mobile phone and I have looked at your data, and if you have complained, then you can go, it's a civil contribution, you can go to the adjudicating authority. So what I do, once there is a contravention and once there is an offense in that 43 section, I always say that intent was wrong, and I make it a criminal offense. Then I register criminal offense and then send them to jail. So these are the two, these are the slight difference, this is the slight difference between civil contravention and criminal offense.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next question from Manisha Jadhav. How safe are cards enabled with Wi-Fi payment options?
Wi-Fi payment option means?
I think card for
I mean near field communication.
Near NFC.
Yeah, that's safe. That's safe. That's safe. That's safe. No issue. The problem is that authentication.
Yeah.
If somebody is bypassing your authentication, that is the problem. But once you have your debit card and NFC enabled and it's being swiped, then the card is with you. But I always say that this is the age of cloning up the debit cards on a very massive scale. When I was posted as SP Azamgarh, there was a particular gang which used to clone the debit card. So how they are doing it? You can order the both machines, schemer, reader and writer, and even the blank ATM card from eBay or from Amazon. And now you are ready to copy any debit card of anyone. You just go to any ATM booth machine. Simply you have to know the PIN card. So you can install a camera above the keyboard, and you can look soldier surfing light, and then just put your skimmer behind. In some of the cases, a similar looking debit card slot were superimposed on the ATM machine. So once the customer were coming, they were swiping the card, there were error messages. But the fact is that your card detail was, copied on the skimmer. Now they were sitting in the car. They used to come with the skimmer. They were putting your skimmer attached with the computer, and they were printing the card at the same place. Within 10-20 minutes, they used to get the duplicate cards, and they were taking all your money. Yeah.
Okay. Sir, how to bypass Tor browser protection of hacker? It is also from anonymous attendee. Tor
browser, Tor is a special software, so how to, it's not a question of bypassing the Tor. Because they are using they are using Tor like what we call that proxy bouncing. That is the problem, because n number of IPs are used in a chain. So from this node to that node, if like I am using a proxy, so if I have to commit a crime, then first I will use the proxy of Russia. Then I will go to a proxy. I will use a proxy from Ghana, then from Australia, then from US, and then I will commit the crime in India. So the problem before law enforcement agency, a police, will be decoding the entire chain. Then what is the problem? There is no international treaty as such so binding enough to get the information in real time. So if you have got one IP, and if you are writing a letter to the service provider, hosting service provider, please provide whom this IP was allotted, then in 90% of the cases they do not respond, and that's why the cyber criminal think that when it use the proxy bouncing or Tor like infra to keep ourselves anonymous and commit all kinds of crime. So that is the challenge. Yeah, I agree. That is the biggest challenge before law enforcement agency. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So the next question is from Harish Kumar. Please guide whether payment gateway system can capture MAC ID for digital payment transactions.
Yeah. Just yesterday only, I saw they are capturing MAC ID. And the MAC ID, because even 2-3 years earlier, when I was investigating a case, only BSNL was capturing the MAC ID. Because once we are connected on data packets, if suppose I am sending a mail to you, then it's communication between the two devices through IP addresses. So IP address along with how to identify the device. IP address is allotted by the telecom operators, so it can change. So now the problem is, once a cybercrime is committed through this device, the identity of the device is only MAC IDs once the data package is running between the two nodes, MAC ID. So now they have started capturing the MAC ID. You can get the MAC ID from the payment gateway. They give you the IP addresses and the MAC ID as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next question is from Prakar Gupta. Do you believe that skill set required tools available with Indian authorities professions is lacking in comparison to authorities in US, European Union, Japan, etc., while tackling fraud, cyber attacks, ransomware, etc.?
Yeah. Frankly speaking, I will say yes, because we are really lagging far behind than those countries. Because you always go to the FBI and Secret Service, and even I communicate with those who are there in Scotland Yard Police, United Crime Agency. I had a chance to talk to them. So they are really smart. They are far better tools, and these are same everywhere. They have their hands-on experience, exposure. We in India, rarely somebody shows interest in tracking this cybercrime. 99% police officers, they are least interested. I don't feel any hesitation to say that very few of them are interested in technology side of the crime. So, but we are training them. We are conducting workshop and conferences, and gradually the awareness, and they are getting more and more competent to deal into such cases. Yeah.
So the next question is on what do we do in case of a dynamic IP, which are issued by telecom providers only and can be used by multiple people as they move around city using different cell phone towers. So one IP but multiple users.
So I told you, the question was asked earlier. I told you that multiple, a dynamic IP, allotment of dynamic IP as such is not legally wrong. It's mandated in the licensing terms condition given by the Department of Telecommunication to the telephone companies. It's not wrong. There are certain limitations, which was earlier in case of IP version 4. Now with IP version 6, there is no limitation as such. There are trillion of IPs are there in their pool. Now there is no there is nothing like dynamic. So you cannot allot one single IP at a time to thousands of people like earlier it was happening. Even today, few of the companies, telecom operator are working on IP version 4, but gradually they are moving towards IP version 6. So sooner, I hope this problem will be resolved.
Yeah. So the next question is from Zakir Shiraz. Card payments made below 2,000 rupees with a tap pay option does not need any authentication. How safe is this method and what can be the implications?
But this question, because even I pay anywhere a payment even less than 2,000, if you have enabled your second factor authentication, so that will come. They ask for the OTP.
It is your choice to choose. If he is choosing it is taking the risk. If he's choosing the other option, he's taking the risk. It is not advisable at all. One can go on scamming him for 2,000 and below.
Yeah.
It is not advisable. There is no option of security and inconvenience go together. If you want to be secure, you have to go through certain inconvenience. That is my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
The mail ID and the banking, there has to be, a multi-factor authentication. At least two-factor authentication must be there. Be it your Facebook account or your mail ID or your banking accounts. You should get it, enable it, two-factor authentication. But again, the problem, if somebody has got your credit card data, and if I am purchasing something on overseas server like ebay.com, then there is even two-factor authentication will not work. You are not going to get OTP and your entire credit card limit will be exhausted. But again, that is the issue. Yeah.
So the next question is from Pradeep Kumar. What is your view on small ticket frauds like voluminous happening through tokenization of cards? Additionally, while organizations make robust processes to stop fraud, how do we ensure that customers, the weakest link in security, are not social engineered and fall prey to fraud?
It's basically a matter of awareness. We will have to start massive awareness campaign. They are very smart, the criminals, and the social engineering tricks, the skill set they have is unparalleled. So they are really smart people, and they can befool anyone. Even yesterday night I was listening. I can share if you want, then I can share the video clips. Someone from Jamtara, how smartly he was talking to prospective, victim, being he himself posing as a branch manager. Sometimes the same guy, he was talking in a different tone as a assistant, and then again in a different tone as a branch manager. He himself was talking, and he was having 3 mobile phones. So they are really very smart at social engineering tricks, and thousands of people are getting victim each and every day.
Sir, Ramchandra garu, 1 minute. We will take last 2 questions, sir, because there are so many questions. Your session is.
We'll communicate to. We'll communicate to Dr. Singh.
Yes, sir. We will communicate the other questions and we will take them offline, sir, because there are some people who want to talk to, because your session is so nice, so knowledgeable, and we learned so many practical things.
Yeah.
So Ramchandra garu will take only last 2 questions, sir.
Yeah, I think Mani Padmanabhan sir has a question. I was asking to talk. If you can
Yes.
Let
join.
Mani talk. Let Mani talk.
Yes,
Mani
go
sir,
ahead,
if you are
Mani.
there, you can please talk.
Yeah,
Mani,
please
please
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah.
Hello. No, I think there is a misunderstanding. I don't have a question. Did I send any?
You raised a hand. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Read out
I'm
the
so
next
sorry.
questions, Ramchandar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, this is from Srinath Maninarayanan. Has there been any use of artificial intelligence by the crime team to address technology fraud, where CFE team can be of support?
Yeah. Okay. Now gradually we are moving toward artificial intelligence age. In each and everything we are having artificial intelligence application. Like what is happening, what Google is doing, how even everything, your Facebook, your data analysts, everything is based on artificial intelligence. But any crime committed with help of artificial intelligence has not come to my table. I haven't investigated any case in which artificial intelligence was used. But now there is possibility, huge possibility. The next crime is going to happen with the application of artificial intelligence only.
Great. Excellent.
Sir, the last question we'll take, rest we'll send by mail to them. It is from Arvind Yadav. Which all are the institute agencies in India for risk professionals who also want to become cyber security experts?
So if they want to be cyber security expert, there are lots of certification agency. You can get certified with ISO 27001, then CISSP, you can do CISA if you are into IS auditing. Then CFE, of course, some part of the CFE course is related with technology crime. And So you can be certified. So basically, it's a knowledge domain. Anyone can get mastery either going through the like I always go through technology crime news portals, and then I always try to update my knowledge in different domains of technology. So you can be certified. You cannot be certified, but you can be master of information security.
I'll supplement Triveni's answer.
Yeah.
It is a question of passion. There is no tailor-made course that will make you an authority on the cyber crime or the economic crime. There are all courses that will launch you. That's all. After launching, it is your own initiative that will take you far. The passion at his age, he became. You see, I'm taking Triveni. I belong to 84 batch. He's an SPS officer with a renowned name recognized by DGs, whereas we are very class conscious in police. Whereas Triveni Singh's name invokes respect, class conscious or no conscious. That is the respect he commands. My kudos to him. So it is your individual passion that will take you places, not the technical certification alone. I hope I am right, Dr. Triveni Singh.
Sir, exactly, sir. Knowledge is important.
Yeah, passion, knowledge and passion. Yes.
Yeah.
You have achieved something unimaginable.